Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Corey Krieger, and this is Module 2 assignment for EDS 708 with Dr. Sewell. We've been asked to share our thoughts on curriculum and curriculum design, and what exactly does curriculum design mean? So, kind of first off the bat, what I noticed in my research is there is not one concrete definition of what curriculum means. If you basically look up and do some research on curriculum, you can find 50 to 100 definitions on what curriculum is and how curriculum should be defined. Some people define it as the guidelines of your course. Others simply call it the course of studies. And other definitions call it basically a delivery component for how you use and implement great lessons. So in this video, I'm going to go through some of the more academic versions of what curriculum is. Very interesting. Again, as a U.S. history teacher, I'll try to give my own perspective on, again, what I define curriculum as and how curriculum can be used in my classroom. But again, as I just mentioned, there is no consensus of what curriculum actually means. That's not the correct one. So let's start with the academic definitions of curriculum. I thought it would be helpful to kind of go back into the Wayback Machine, if you will, and look at some older definitions of curriculum. One of kind of the founding fathers of kind of the American educational curriculum design, and he wrote a very famous book on it, is a guy named Ralph Tyler. Tyler is pictured there at the bottom right of your screen. And Tyler defines curriculum back in 1949 as all the learning experiences planned and directed by the school to attain its educational goals. He goes on to essentially lay out his fundamental questions in regard to curriculum. What educational purposes should the school seek to attain? So as an educational institution, simply put, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve by having the students in the building? What are you trying to achieve in each particular class? What educational experiences can be provided that are likely to attain these purposes? If you're in a math class, does that mean working problems? Does it mean field experience? What are the experiences that we as teachers in a school can provide to meet these goals? Number 3, how can these educational experiences be effectively organized? Number 4, how can we determine whether these purposes are being attained? Pretty good definition even for 1949. We'll look at some of those. But essentially, Tyler, it's kind of an all-encompassing thing. It is all of the learning experiences planned and directed by the school. So curriculum, according to Tyler, is very broad. It's not some narrow set of standards. Its curriculum is everything, so to speak. Other definitions, this one was a little bit different from, I want to get his name right here, from A.V. Kelly, the Curriculum Theory and Practice. This looks like it's from a London review, so a little bit overseas here. According to Kelly, 1999, curriculum is negatively viewed as a syllabus which may limit the planning of teachers to a consideration of the content or the body of knowledge they wish to transmit, or a list of subjects to be taught. So I think this would be kind of the negative view of curriculum, that, again, it's some sort of set course of study and standards. As a first-year teacher, I often had this issue as someone who, I got to get through my curriculum. I have to get through my standards. I have to get through this. So especially as a history teacher, I'm behind, right? It's, you always say, well, am I even going to be able to get to the Civil War? Will I be able to cut certain things? And as an older, more veteran teacher, I no longer view curriculum as that. I don't see it as necessarily just a course of study. It's not something that I just want to, quote unquote, get through. And if you still look at curriculum that way, and in my opinion, I feel as if you're doing it wrong. The last definition from an academic standpoint when it comes to curriculum, I found from a guy named David G. Armstrong. And this is kind of more of a modern version of what I would see as curriculum, and it goes very close to kind of my own. He says it is a master plan for selecting content and organizing learning experiences for the purpose of changing and developing learners' behaviors and insights. That last part really kind of stands out to me. As a history teacher, especially if we're just teaching facts, we're doing it wrong. If a kid leaves my class and all they've learned is that the stock market crashed in 1929 and that D-Day happened on June 6, 1944, I haven't effectively done my job as a teacher. I have to organize learning experiences so I can develop learners' behaviors and insight and possibly change those insights, get them to think critically about those things. So again, if they only look back and see it as a rote memorization of facts and dates, then I have not, achieved my goals as an educator. Can they look at multiple perspectives? Can they see things with empathy? Can they look at people from different backgrounds than their own? That's the purpose of history, right? So this kind of leads me to my definition of curriculum and kind of how I view curriculum. Simply put, I think of curriculum as a way to guide my instruction. It's a way of guiding my instruction to a destination, but it's not necessarily the destination. I see it as kind of a roadmap. If you're going on a road trip, you may have a destination in mind of what you want your students to know, but there may be pit stops along the way. You may not just get on the interstate and drive directly there and hit a gas station and hit checkpoints along the way. It can curve and move and be flexible. And to me, as the teacher, I said here, I'm the driver of the car. This gives me the direction to which I'm going to take my students on the educational journey. And as I mentioned before, hopefully my students have those types of skills. And the work that we do, whether it's, through the delivery of lessons, whether it be writing or reading, or whatever we may choose to do within the class, some sort of simulation, the skills hopefully allow them to see that bigger picture and have a different perspective. So again, I see curriculum as a roadmap, not a checklist. So I think I may have skipped over. Okay, so this is the last one. I apologize for jumping around. So what should my curriculum look like? These are just my definitions. I feel like curriculum should be flexible and adaptable to meet my students' needs. Just kind of some personal stories. When I taught at Hartselle High School, I taught AP Government. Obviously, the type of kid that I've got in an AP Government class is going to be different than the general education kids that I teach now. You have to be adaptable. You have to be flexible. Certain situations come up in the world as a government and a history teacher, and you've got to be willing to take those things into account and be able to teach your standards and your curriculum within the context of our current social structure. Otherwise, you get the question that is commonplace in education, which moves me to number 2, is how will this help me in the real world? If I'm teaching about, the Great Depression and I can't connect it to 2008 or even here recently, with the unemployment numbers, kids are not going to understand that. It's not going to have any sort of relevance on their life, and it won't matter to the culture and the youth of the day. So I'm always thinking about how I can connect my lessons to today's world and context. So in number 3, it's more than just standards. I have a goal in mind about how I want to accomplish those standards, but be okay deviating from those. So hopefully this was informative for you. Those were kind of my definitions along with some academics definitions. There's the works cited page as well. So curriculum, last little, review, if you will, is not just one thing. It's an all-encompassing thing that has moved and shifted. And the debate is still out on what curriculum is and how it can be defined in public schools. So thank you for listening. Everybody have a good day.